Have you ever felt the edges of your world blur? Friends, family, co-workers all clamoring for your time, until you look in the mirror and hardly recognize the man staring back at you? You've been taught that being available is a virtue. Respond immediately. Lend a hand. Fix everyone's problems. But Carl Jung, that pioneer of the human psyche, argued that true strength and self-discovery demand a measure of inaccessibility. To become who you truly are, you must first learn to guard your inner sanctuary. Jung warned that the persona, the mask we present to the world, grows brittle if we let others write its script. When you greet every message with an instant reply, drop everything when someone calls, and pour all your energy into solving other people's emergencies, your persona fractures under the weight of expectations. Your private world, your thoughts, your deeper impulses slip into the shadows. As Jung wrote, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. If you spend your days answering everyone else, you never look within. Think of a writer whose best work emerges in the early hours, when the rest of the world sleeps. He closes his study door, turns off notifications, and allows himself to wander the corridors of his mind. In that silence, a story takes shape. Characters, themes, truths he never knew he carried. If he had answered every late-night text or tended to every social media alert, those ideas would vanish like footprints in sand. He guards those hours because he knows they are the crucible of his creativity. Consider Albert Einstein, who labored over equations in solitude. He once said, "I live in that solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity." He resisted the urge to be every place at once. While colleagues rushed to conferences, he retreated to his study. In those quiet moments, scribbling on chalkboards, scribbling in notebooks, he glimpsed the threads of relativity and transformed physics. His inaccessibility was not arrogance. It was allegiance to an inner vision that demanded space and time. Notice the single parent who keeps a sacred hour each evening for uninterrupted focus. After bedtime stories and household chores, he sets his phone to silent and sits with a freelancer's project, drawing plans or drafting proposals. He knows his family's needs are critical, but he also knows that if he never claims a moment for himself, he becomes depleted, resentful at his children's requests, exhausted at work, and distant from his own purpose. By setting that boundary, he shows both himself and everyone else that his inner life has value. Jung described the shadow as the part of ourselves we refuse to face: envy, jealousy, grief, rage. When you are constantly accessible, you become a receptacle for other people's crises. Your friends' heartbreak, your colleagues' panic over a project, your siblings' financial woes. You store these burdens in your psyche until one day they leak out in a moment of anger or despair. Jung wrote, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. To know that darkness, you must create distance. You must let your own shadow speak in silence without the echo of someone else's drama." Imagine a CEO who sets strict focus hours every morning. From 8 to 11, her office door is closed, and her digital status reads, "Do not disturb." Gently, she reminds her executive team that non-urgent questions can wait until after 11. During those 3 hours, she tackles the toughest strategic challenges, plans that shape the company's future. Because she protects that time, her decisions come from clarity, not from the chaos of constant interruption. When 11 hits, she opens the door and meets the world with calm authority. Now consider the teenager who is the go-to for every friend's drama: relationship breakups, academic stress, family arguments. He checks messages at midnight, fields calls at dawn, and feels compelled to have an opinion on every fight. But each time he puts out someone else's emotional fire, his own spark dims. He begins to ask himself, what am I missing in my own life? If he built a boundary, declaring, for instance, that after 9 p.m. he is offline, he would give his own mind the space to process his anxieties, the pressure to perform at school, the confusion over career choices, the loneliness he hides behind jokes. In that solitude, he might discover the passions that will guide him forward. Jung believed that individuation, the process of integrating all aspects of the self, requires listening to the inner voice, not drowning it in a sea of external demands. He wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But you cannot claim that privilege if you never turn down the volume of other people's expectations. When you refuse to be at everyone's beck and call, you acknowledge that your psyche has a right to its own growth. Consider a manager renowned for her empathy, who realizes that every time she drops what she's doing to soothe a team member's fears, her own tasks stall. She begins to keep office hours for emotional check-ins, from 2 to 3 each afternoon. Any employee can come talk. Outside that hour, she is fully engaged in her own projects. As a result, her team learns to organize their concerns and respect her focus. She no longer carries the weight of everyone's self-doubt. Instead, she guides meetings with energy and presence because her mind is not fracturing under endless interruptions." Jung introduced another dimension, the Anima and Animus, the archetypal feminine and masculine energies that dwell within each person. These energies speak through symbols, dreams, creative impulses. But when you are perpetually on, you drown out those voices. If you never let your mind wander, to play a single note on the piano, to walk without a destination, to stare at a blank page, you never allow your Anima and Animus to converse. That conversation, he said, is the source of deeper intuition and balanced decision-making. Think of a craftsman, say, a carpenter who closes his workshop on Sunday. He turns off his phone. He avoids social media. He immerses himself in the rhythm of hand tools rather than the rhythm of notifications. In that focused solitude, he hears the grain of the wood. He senses the imperfection where a client sees a simple board. He carves a piece of furniture that seems to hum with intentionality. If he had answered every call on Sunday, the subtle cracks and veined patterns might have slipped past him, and his masterpiece would lack soul. Imagine a graduate student working on a dissertation. He reserves his library cubicle as sacred territory. No friends, no calls, no texts. He writes pages of argument, stepping away only to let his mind rest. In that silence, he confronts his unresolved doubts. Am I smart enough? Is this topic worth pursuing? Will anyone care? He wrestles those doubts onto the page, transforms them into questions that refine his thesis. If he had chased every email or indulged in every social media scroll, his work might remain a tangle of half-formed ideas. Jung taught that dreams and active imagination arise when the mind is free from distraction. They are the language of the unconscious. But if you carve your day into tiny fragments for everyone else's convenience, your dreams suffer. If you reply to messages in the middle of the night, you train your psyche to be reactive, not creative. To strengthen your inner life, you must protect pockets of undisturbed time, whether it's the first hour of the morning, the half hour after lunch, or the 2 hours before bed. Let those pockets be your laboratory for active imagination. Journaling, drawing, meditating, letting images flow without interruption. In relationships, inaccessibility might feel counterintuitive. You worry. What if my partner feels ignored? What if my friends think I've abandoned them? Jung would say that authentic connection grows from depth, not from constant availability. If you're always within reach, others form attachments to your presence, not to your essence. But when you step away, say, taking a solo weekend retreat or a week-long retreat without your phone, you give your loved ones space to examine their own lives. Some may panic, but those who genuinely value you will respect your need for solitude, and they will return with fresh perspectives, more appreciative of your presence when you choose to share it. Consider a software developer who disables email notifications and schedules focus sprints of 90 minutes. He tells his team, "If it's not critical, send a message to my inbox. No instant chats." In those 90 minutes, he writes code that flows. He troubleshoots problems before they become emergencies. At the end of the sprint, he checks messages and responds in batch. His output surges because his attention was undivided. He models for his team that respecting one another's inaccessibility is how a collective evolves, not collapse under the chaos of instant reactions. In our hyper-connected world, the very idea of inaccessibility can feel rebellious. We've been taught that the badge of honor is the red dot on the app icon, the online indicator on Slack, the last seen timestamp on messaging platforms. But Jung would remind us that those signals are illusions of connection. Real connection lives in silence, in mutual respect for each other's interior lives. He wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And we choose to become, or we allow ourselves to be shaped by every ping that buzzes through our days. To cultivate inaccessibility, start small. Choose a quiet hour every morning before checking messages. Let that be a ritual: coffee, a journal, a walk. Ask yourself, what fears surface when I'm alone with my thoughts? What parts of me I've silenced to keep others comfortable? Sit with those questions until answers emerge. Then extend the practice. Designate an hour in the evening when the phone is off. Tell a close friend or family member, "I'm stepping into silent mode. I'll be back at 9 p.m. Notice how the world responds. Notice how your own mind settles. As you grow comfortable with these boundaries, you'll find that opportunities to serve, important meetings, deep conversations, creative breakthroughs that would have been lost in the noise now arrive in moments of clarity. People begin to realize that when you do show up, you are present in a way unreachable when you are always on call. They learn to trust that your word is anchored in thought and not in impulse. And there will be resistance, both from within and from others. You might feel pangs of guilt when you don't answer a message immediately. You might worry that someone will think you've changed, but Jung would call that resistance a signpost. It shows you where your shadow lingers, demanding integration. Each time you calmly uphold a boundary, you shrink the space in which your shadow wields power. In the tension between accessibility and inaccessibility, you forge your true self. You become the man who can say no without cruelty, who can walk away without fear, who can enter a room and give his full attention because he has protected hours to replenish his soul. You learn that your mind is not a warehouse for other people's crises, but the soil from which your own purpose grows. Jung taught that every man carries an inner drama, a unique interplay of instincts, dreams, fears, and aspirations. He believed that the path to wholeness, or individuation, was to become conscious of these inner characters and integrate them into a coherent self. But that path winds through valleys of silence. To hear those voices, you need to step away from the cacophony of external demands. Imagine at the end of your life, looking back and realizing you spent half your energy trying to solve everyone else's puzzles while you left your own game unfinished. Jung's message is clear. You cannot be a master of your own psyche until you learn not to be everyone's sounding board. Your inaccessibility is not a punishment or a withdrawal. It is an act of courageous self-preservation. It is the foundation upon which you build your legacy. So tonight, turn off your phone for an hour. Close your door. Sit in the company of your silence. Feel the stirrings of your own hopes and doubts. Let them speak their names. Let them shape the next step you will take. When the hour is up, you will carry something into the world that no notification can convey. The resonance of a man who knows his own depths. And when your door opens again, your words, your presence, and your decisions will carry the weight of intentionality. You will no longer be a mere echo chamber for others' demands. You will be the author of your own becoming. That is the gift Jung offers. Not a promise of comfort, but the challenge to defend your inner world so that your life can unfold in deeper, more honest resonance with who you truly are. Learn not to be accessible. In that refusal lies the freedom to awaken. Have you ever felt the edges of your world blur? Friends, family, co-workers all clamoring for your time, until you look in the mirror and hardly recognize the man staring back at you. You wake to the ping of a message, rush to answer, rush to reply, rush to be there for someone else. And by dusk, you're empty, hollowed out, wondering where your own life went. Carl Jung believed that to become who you truly are, you must learn to be intentionally unavailable. Inaccessibility is not cruelty. It is the shield that protects your inner world. Jung warned that the persona, the mask you present to the world, grows brittle if you let everyone else shape it. The moment you greet every notification without hesitation, drop everything when someone calls, or pour your energy into solving other people's emergencies, your deepest self dissolves into a blur of utility. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. If you never turn inward, you remain half asleep to your own existence. Consider a writer whose best ideas arrive in the dawn's hush at a small desk by a frost-fingered window. He closes the door, turns off his phone, and drifts into that space where words whisper. In that hush, he hears plots forming, characters speaking, universal truths stirring. If he had answered every late-night message or tended to every social media alert, those ideas would vanish, swallowed by noise. Each minute spent tending another's agenda steals a chip from his own creativity. Albert Einstein once said, "I live in that solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity." He resisted every push to be at the center of academic social circles. While colleagues chased prestige at conferences, he retreated to his study, where chalk dust hung like motes of possibility. In that solitude, he glimpsed relativity and transformed physics. Einstein's inaccessibility was not arrogance. It was loyalty to a voice only he could hear. Every time you choose to be accessible, you fill your mind with other people's chaos. Your teammates' panic at work, your neighbor's financial heartbreak, your friend's marital crisis. Jung called all these unacknowledged burdens the shadow. If you carry others' burdens without establishing boundaries, your own shadow festers, leaking resentment and confusion into your relationships. Acknowledging your fears is the beginning of integration. Denial is the rust that corrodes the warrior's shield, but when you welcome your fears, they become armor. Picture a single parent who finishes dinner at 6 o'clock, then dedicates an hour to uninterrupted work, writing a novel, studying for certification, sketching designs. He keeps his phone on silent. When his child coughs at 8, he returns to that stillness only after making sure every need is met. In those precious 60 minutes, he hears the pulse of his own ambitions, aspirations he never voiced because he was too busy fielding everyone else's demands. That hour is not selfish, it is sacred. It rejuvenates him so he can be fully present to his child at bedtime. Jung described the Anima and Animus, the archetypal feminine and masculine energies within each of us. They speak through dreams, through creative urges, through sudden insights. If you never carve out space to listen, you drown those whispers in the churn of outside distractions. A man might race through his day, commuting, working, texting, scrolling, only to realize he hasn't confronted his own anxiety, hasn't touched his desire to create, hasn't weighed his longing for deeper connection. He might have time for dates and gatherings, but no time to know himself. Your soul's compass clicks silent until you close the door on the world. Consider a mid-level manager who schedules focus hours every morning. From 8 to 10, her office door is closed and she silences her phone. In those 2 hours, she works on strategy, writes reports, and reflects on goals. No interruptions. When she finally answers emails at 10, her responses carry clarity. Before, her afternoons felt like wading through molasses. Every call derailed her train of thought. Now, those quiet hours fuel her decision-making and calm her mind. She shows her team that her inaccessibility is an act of leadership, not arrogance. When she meets with them, she brings undivided attention. The leader who honors his silence commands respect that noise can never earn. A college student might pride himself on being the go-to for every friend's drama, late-night texting, group projects, emotional venting. He keeps his phone in his hand even in class. He fears missing out if he dares set a boundary. But beneath the badge of helpfulness, he carries exhaustion, poor sleep, scattered focus, creeping irritability. The moment he designates silent hours after 10 p.m., he begins to see his own anxieties, the fear of failure, confusion over career paths, emerge in his dreams. He journals these fears, giving them language until they no longer hold sway. His sleep deepens, his grades climb. He emerges as both a reliable friend and a rested student. A phone that never sleeps steals the soul of its owner. Jung believed that dreams and fantasies speak in metaphor, guiding you toward wholeness. If your waking hours are filled with screens and interruptions, your dreams become static, mere echoes of exhaustion. But if you carve out dream recall time, lying in bed for 10 minutes before reaching for your phone, you gather symbols that point to your growth edges. Perhaps you dream of a broken bridge. It tells you that trust in yourself is ruptured. Or you dream of riding a horse through a storm. It shows you are learning to harness inner chaos. Those insights come only when your mind can register them. They vanish like mist if you never pause. Dreams are the brushstrokes of your unconscious. Only silence lets you see the full canvas. Even in friendships, inaccessibility can strengthen bonds. Constant availability is like water, in which fish swim complacently. Remove the water briefly, and they realize the necessity of the stream. A man might choose to spend a weekend camping alone. No texts, no calls, letting his phone languish at home. Friends may worry, but when he returns, his stories are richer, his presence more alive. They notice he is not running on autopilot. He has tasted silence and come back with purpose. They learn that absence was not rejection, but replenishment, and they welcome his presence more fully. Absence is not a wound. It is the quiet that sings appreciation into every reunion. In relationships, People often expect instant responses as proof of love or loyalty, but married couples who respect quiet hours discover that absence can be a gift. One husband told his wife that between 7 and 8 each evening, he needed time to read or reflect without distractions. She initially felt neglected, but within weeks, she saw his anger subside, his empathy deepen, and his attention become more genuine. They learned that love thrives in presence, not in perpetual availability. Weekly alone nights became their ritual, each spouse stepping away briefly, then rejoining with renewed affection. The heart's flame burns brightest when fed by moments of silence. At work, those who master inaccessibility stand out. Consider a freelance designer who tells clients he checks messages only twice a day. Some clients bristle, but the ones who stay value his focused creativity. He spends each morning sketching, prototyping, experimenting. When he posts final drafts in the afternoon, they carry a refinement others cannot match. He proves that service is not measured by speed, but by quality. Each delayed reply is a statement. I protect my craft. Speed thrills the inbox. Stillness thrills the mind. Jung's concept of the transcendent function arises when we hold two opposites, conscious intent and unconscious insight, together. When you refuse to be interrupted, you allow that tension to simmer until a new idea emerges. A scientist might sit in his lab for hours without checking email, allowing data to speak to him. He notices patterns that elude a rushing mind. In that fusion of intention and intuition, breakthroughs occur. He publishes a paper that reshapes his field. His colleagues, always online, never glimpse that depth. Genius affirms itself in the gap between focus and freefall. Beware though, inaccessibility can tip into isolation if you mistake withdrawal for healing. Jung warned that isolation often becomes a refuge for woundedness, masquerading as self-care. If you withdraw because you fear rejection or conflict, you deepen your wound. True inaccessibility is a doorway, not a wall. You retreat to listen, to your shadow, to yourself, to your inner muse, and then you return with insight. You share not because you are trapped by demands, but because you choose to connect from a place of depth. Solitude is a medicine. Isolation is a poison. Sometimes you must withdraw to integrate a loss, a relationship that ended, a career goal unfulfilled, a dream that unraveled. You feel raw, exposed. In those moments, let your phone lie silent and let the ache speak its truth. Confront the question, who am I if this is gone? In that agony, new possibilities form. You imagine a life you never dared name, a fresh vocation, a creative pursuit, a path of service. Had you numbed the pain with busyness, you would have missed your true calling, hiding behind the rubble of your loss. From the ashes of every ending, the path to your next beginning emerges. Inaccessibility also teaches you to wield no as a creative tool. Every time you refuse a request that drains you, you reclaim a fragment of your life to invest in what matters: your craft, your family, your health, your dreams. A consultant might say no to extra projects on a Friday afternoon, knowing that if he says yes, both his weekend and his spirit will suffer. His clients respect him because they see his boundaries fuel excellence. He shows that no is not rejection, but redirection. Every no you speak is a sacred space for your higher yes. Jung believed that every man carries within him a mythic self, a template of wholeness waiting to unfold. But if you never step away from the world's roar, you never align with that self. You remain a collage of other people's expectations: the employee, the friend, the son, the partner. without ever becoming your unique figure in the tapestry. Inaccessibility is the brushstroke that allows you to draw your own silhouette. Your life's masterpiece begins when you sketch your silhouette against the silence. When you defy the siren song of constant connectivity, you model a new way to live. Younger colleagues see you stop responding at 6 and wait until morning. They ask, "Why don't you just reply quickly?" Instead of a reactive, "I don't have time," you say, "I protect these hours to think. I do my best work then." Soon they realize you are not ignoring them. You are prioritizing deep work. They begin to wonder, what would their life look like if they kept their phone in their pocket until lunch? To change the world, first you change your relationship with your own phone. In our hyper-connected era, this practice feels revolutionary. Every app, every platform, every service whispers, "Be here, be now, be seen." But Jung reminds us that genuine presence resides in silence. To be heard, you must disappear occasionally. To be seen as a leader, you must vanish from the constant parade. That absence creates a gravity that draws people to you, not because you are everywhere, but because you are someone worth seeking. In a world allergic to silence, your quiet becomes your greatest roar. Carve out daily rituals of inaccessibility, a morning hour before phones, an afternoon walk without music or podcasts, an evening block free of screens. Each ritual is a boundary, a reaffirmation that your mind belongs to you. During those intervals, invite your shadow to speak, perhaps by journaling the worries you refuse to voice, by naming the envy you feel when someone else succeeds. Bring those hidden parts into the light so they lose their power to sabotage you. Your shadow hurls its darkest darts until you meet it in the dark and say, "I've been expecting you." Invite yourself to guide you in inaccessibility. In that space of solitude, meditate on your deepest values. Ask, who do I want to be in 20 years? How would that man answer this email? How would that man choose his commitments? Let that version of you set the bar for every boundary you draw. If something feels misaligned with that self, let your no be a compass pointing you back on course. Your self whispers in stillness. Learn to hush the world so you can hear it. When the weekend arrives, dare to go offline for a full day. Disconnect from all digital channels. Embrace boredom. Sit on your porch. Stare at the sky. Feel the wind. Let your mind wander without a GPS. Notice the ache in your chest you usually silence with scrolling. Let that ache speak. I want purpose. I crave beauty. I long for truth. Those insights are the seedlings of transformation. One day in silence speaks volumes to your soul. Inaccessibility need not be grand gestures. It can be as simple as not answering an unplanned knock on your door. You're in the middle of reading a book that contorts your mind. You hear someone at the knob. Instead of leaping to answer, you let it rattle. If they persist, you say, "I'm sorry, I'm not available right now." They leave a note or return later. That one refusal strengthens your sense of self. You learn, I am not obligated to be at everyone's beck and call. Your true home is not where others find you. It is where you find yourself. Let this practice transform how you use conversation. Instead of scattering your thoughts across texts and social media, resist the impulse to broadcast your every opinion. Save your deepest reflections for moments when you can speak without an audience, when you journal, when you sketch, when you think in silence. Those unshared insights become treasures only you can hold until the right time arises to share them with those who truly value them. Knowledge broadcast is diluted. Wisdom whispered in stillness is distilled. Inaccessibility extends to your body as well. A busy man might hit the gym at dawn when no one is around. He avoids the clanging of weights with 100 eyes watching. In that emptiness, he feels the echo of his own breath. Strong, steady, unstoppable. That echo reminds him. Strength is not born in the mirrored gaze of spectators, but in the quiet struggle of muscle against will. Your body's roar is loudest when no one is listening. Even vacations can become exercises in inaccessibility. Instead of packing a laptop and answering emails from a beach chair, dare to leave your work behind. Let the ocean waves be the loudest noise you hear. Let your mind slow down enough to notice your own heartbeat. When you return, you come back with bones rested and perspective sharpened. You realize how many crises you averted by simply letting them wait. The tide of your potential rises only when you step out of the currents of distraction. To master inaccessibility is to learn an alchemy, turning absence into presence. Each time you refuse a trivial call, you invest that moment in yourself. Each time you shut your door, you open a window into your psyche. Each time you stay offline, you refill the well of your creativity and compassion. Jung believed that in those moments, our unconscious guides us toward wholeness. Absence is the crucible in which your presence is forged. When you finally answer that call, or return that message, do so with intention. You are not a reactive puppet. You are a conscious agent, choosing when to engage. Your words carry weight because they come from a mind at rest, not a mind in chaos. People notice. They lean in. They value your time and respect your boundaries because they see that your silence was not neglect, but preparation. A delayed reply is often the prelude to a powerful response. Jung taught that life is a dance between the conscious and the unconscious, between the outer world and the inner world. Inaccessibility is the stage where that dance becomes visible. In solitude, your warring parts find rhythm. Your deepest fears surface as dancers you must lead rather than resist. Only then can you integrate them. Let them move through you without derailing you. The dance of your soul needs a hall cleared of distractions. Young men today face an especially loud world, voices shrieking from every screen, every platform, every newsfeed. But every man carries an inner citadel, hidden, silent, waiting to be reclaimed. When you are always reachable, you trade that citadel for a crowded marketplace. But when you decide to be gone for a while, your phone down, your door closed, you remind yourself that your kingdom lies within. The gates to your kingdom close when you set your phone to silent. In the end, inaccessibility is not a rejection of life. It is a reclamation of it. It is not a denial of connection. It is an affirmation of what connects most profoundly, your authentic self. Let your inaccessibility be not a wall, but a doorway, a gateway into the rich terrain of your psyche, where creativity, resilience, and wisdom dwell. Inaccessibility is not the end of your story. It is the prologue to your becoming. When you next close your door, let it be a vow. Here, I will face my shadow. Here, I will commune with myself. Here, I will forge my own path. And when you open that door again, let your presence shine with the strength that only silence and solitude can give. In that balance between absence and return, you discover the man you were always meant to be.